In a moment that stunned the WWE Universe, this week's episode of Raw delivered a backstage confrontation that could reshape the future of the Bloodline. After weeks of mounting chaos, betrayal, and silence, Jacob Fatu finally stepped forward, and what he said may have changed everything. Tensions have been boiling over within the family for months, but no one expected Jacob to make his move so suddenly. With cameras rolling and whispers backstage, Jacob approached Jey Uso, a man just as torn by family loyalty as he is by the wounds of betrayal. What Jacob said wasn't just bold, it was personal. "We're family," Jacob told him, his voice sharp but steady. "This war with Solo, it ends when we end it, together. You in, or you out?" Jey didn't answer. He didn't have to. The look on his face, the hesitation, the conflict, said it all. This wasn't just another fight. This was a moment that could either mend a broken dynasty or shatter it for good. Jacob's call isn't about ego. It's about restoring what the Bloodline once stood for, before Solo Sikoa turned his back on them all and declared war. Solo has made his intentions crystal clear: control, power, domination. But Jacob sees a different path. He sees strength in unity. He sees a future where the family fights together, not against each other. So now the question looms. Will Jimmy and Jey Uso finally rally behind their cousin? Will they rise as one force to take back what was lost? Or will this be yet another heartbreaking chapter in the Bloodline's brutal civil war? Hit that like button and subscribe now, because this story is far from over, and the next move could change WWE forever. In a moment that stunned the WWE Universe, this week's episode of Raw delivered a backstage confrontation that could reshape the future of the Bloodline. After weeks of mounting chaos, betrayal, and silence, Jacob Fatu finally stepped forward, and what he said may have changed everything. Tensions have been boiling over within the family for months, but no one expected Jacob to make his move so suddenly. With cameras rolling and whispers backstage, Jacob approached Jey Uso, a man just as torn by family loyalty as he is by the wounds of betrayal. What Jacob said wasn't just bold, it was personal. "We're family," Jacob told him, his voice sharp but steady. "This war with Solo, it ends when we end it, together. You in, or you out?" Jey didn't answer. He didn't have to. The look on his face, the hesitation, the conflict, said it all. This wasn't just another fight. This was a moment that could either mend a broken dynasty or shatter it for good. Jacob's call isn't about ego. It's about restoring what the Bloodline once stood for, before Solo Sikoa turned his back on them all and declared war. Solo has made his intentions crystal clear: control, power, domination. But Jacob sees a different path. He sees strength in unity. He sees a future where the family fights together, not against each other. So now the question looms, will Jimmy and Jey Uso finally rally behind their cousin? Will they rise as one force to take back what was lost? Or will this be yet another heartbreaking chapter in the Bloodline's brutal civil war? Hit that like button and subscribe now. Because this story is far from over, and the next move could change WWE forever. But this isn't just about family anymore, it's about legacy, survival, and the soul of WWE's most dominant dynasty. The Bloodline was once untouchable. A force of nature. But ever since Roman Reigns stepped away and Solo Sikoa crowned himself the new head of the table, everything began to unravel. Brothers turned against each other. Allies scattered. And now, with WrestleMania season looming, the cracks are becoming impossible to ignore. Jacob Fatu has been watching from the shadows. Since his quiet arrival on WWE programming, fans have speculated about where his allegiance would lie. Would he fall in line behind Solo, embracing the ruthless, cold vision of the Bloodline's future? Or would he rise against it, stand for the roots, the family, and the legacy that started it all? This week, we got our answer. His message to Jey Uso wasn't just a plea, it was a challenge. Jacob sees Jey for what he is, the heart of the old Bloodline. The first to acknowledge Roman. The one who stood through every battle, every betrayal. The one who left Roman's side when his conscience couldn't take it anymore. And now, the one standing at a crossroads once again. Backstage sources say this segment wasn't just storyline. The tension between these men runs deep. Months ago, Jimmy turned his back on Jey, siding briefly with Solo before finding himself betrayed as well. That betrayal still haunts him. Now, with Jacob throwing down the gauntlet, both Usos must confront the one thing they've been running from, the truth. There's no bloodline without trust. And there's no trust without action. Solo Sikoa, for his part, has remained silent, but his actions speak volumes. Since declaring himself the new tribal authority, Solo has doubled down on violence. Week after week, he's taken out opponents with ruthless efficiency. No speeches. No excuses. Just punishment. In his eyes, anyone who questions his authority is disloyal. Anyone who remembers the past is a threat. And threats are meant to be eliminated. Jacob Fatu doesn't fear that. In fact, he welcomes it. On SmackDown, WWE aired exclusive footage of Jacob watching Solo's rampage from the locker room. No emotion. Just a simmering calm. When asked by a backstage reporter what he thought of Solo's dominance, Jacob didn't flinch. "That ain't dominance," he said quietly. "That's desperation." Those words have sent ripples through the WWE locker room. It's not often someone stares down Solo Sikoa without blinking. But Jacob's different. He's cut from the same cloth as the great Samoan warriors before him. He's brutal. Unforgiving. But he fights with purpose. And right now, that purpose is unity. The WWE Universe has taken notice. Chants of "Unite the Bloodline" have begun spreading across arenas. Fans aren't just watching, they're choosing sides. Some still back Solo, respecting his no-nonsense brutality. Others believe in Jacob's mission to restore what was lost. And somewhere in the middle, Jey Uso stands, caught in a storm of history and heartbreak. Jimmy Uso's position is even more complex. He hasn't spoken publicly since Jacob's confrontation with Jey. But insiders reveal that Jimmy's been seen training harder than ever. He's isolated. Focused. Wrestling pundits believe it's only a matter of time before Jimmy steps back into the center of this war, but which side he chooses remains a mystery. Then, there's Roman. The former tribal chief hasn't been seen on WWE programming in weeks. After his loss at the Royal Rumble and his mysterious absence during WrestleMania season build-up, rumors swirl. Is he injured? Watching? Waiting? No one knows for sure. But one thing is certain, the shadow of Roman Reigns still looms large over this entire story. His silence is deafening, and it's fueling speculation that his return could be imminent. And when Roman does return, whose side will he stand on? Will he support Solo, the cousin who has claimed the throne in his absence? Or will he align with Jacob, Jimmy, and Jey, the pillars of the original bloodline, now fighting to reclaim what they believe is rightfully theirs? Meanwhile, WWE's creative direction has leaned heavily into the family drama. This isn't just another faction feud. This is Shakespearean. Emotional. Real. The Anoa'i family's dominance in WWE has always been a source of pride, but now, it's the battlefield. Every word, every stare, every decision carries the weight of generations. Next week, Jacob is scheduled to appear on SmackDown for a face-to-face with Solo Sikoa. The WWE Universe is already bracing for impact. Will it end in fists? Or will words be enough to crack Solo's iron exterior? Sources backstage say WWE officials have been instructed to let the story breathe, to allow Jacob, Jey, and Jimmy to tell it with authenticity. This isn't a rushed feud. This is a saga, and every beat is being treated with gravity. Meanwhile, social media has exploded. Fans have dubbed this era the Bloodline Civil War. Hashtags like #TeamJacob, #SoloEmpire, and #ReclaimTheBloodline are trending weekly. Memes, theories, and fan predictions flood Twitter and TikTok. Everyone has an opinion, and that's exactly what WWE wants. It's no longer just about matches. It's about identity. Jacob Fatu is now positioned as the moral compass of the Bloodline, a role no one expected, but one he's embracing with quiet intensity. He's not here to play games. He's here to put the pieces back together before there's nothing left to save. And yet, there's an undercurrent of uncertainty. Jacob's intensity is unquestionable, but how far is he willing to go? Is unity truly the goal, or revenge? Solo won't go down without a fight. He's made that abundantly clear. Anyone who opposes him gets crushed. Period. And with a growing army of allies, young upstarts, powerhouses, and enforcers, Solo is building something terrifying. He calls it the next generation of dominance. But it looks more like a dictatorship than a dynasty. Next week's face-to-face could be the beginning of a turning point, or the spark that ignites a war WWE can't contain. And hovering above it all is the million-dollar question: will Roman Reigns return before the house collapses? Because when he does, the landscape will shift instantly. Will he stand as the king returning to find his house in flames? Or the wrecking ball sent to finish what Solo started? No one knows. But everyone's watching. As WrestleMania 41 inches closer, the Bloodline storyline has become the emotional core of WWE's programming. Not because of title gold. Not because of stipulations or gimmicks. Because it's real. It's family. It's war. And now, with Jacob stepping forward, Jey teetering on the edge, Jimmy watching in silence, and Solo drawing his battle lines, the next move could fracture everything. The question isn't just who will win. It's who will survive. The following Friday night arrived like a storm. SmackDown was sold out, the energy palpable, the crowd buzzing with anticipation. The main event wasn't a match. It was a moment. WWE had advertised it all week: Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa, face to face. No security. No physicality, yet. Just two men, two ideologies, and one fractured family standing on the edge of implosion. The lights dimmed. The Tron flashed blood red. And out came Solo Sikoa, flanked by two unknown enforcers. Massive men in all-black tactical gear, their faces stoic and unreadable. Solo walked slowly, methodically, his signature towel over his head. He didn't look at the crowd. He didn't need to. His eyes were locked on the ring, his battlefield. Solo entered the ring without a mic. He stood still, unmoving, as the arena lights cut to black again. Then Jacob Fatu's theme hit. The explosion of cheers was deafening. Jacob emerged, no backup, no theatrics. Just a white hoodie pulled over his head and that signature stare. Focused. Calm. Dangerous. He walked down the ramp with no hesitation, rolled into the ring, and stood eye to eye with Solo. The crowd knew. This was history. The tension could have split steel. Neither man moved for a full minute. Then, slowly, Jacob raised a mic. "You think this is yours now?" he asked, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "You think Roman steps away and this becomes your kingdom? You forgot what this family means, Solo." Solo didn't flinch. His arms remained crossed, but his glare intensified. Jacob continued. "This ain't about who throws the hardest punches. It's about who holds the soul of this family. You? You're a tyrant hiding behind power. Me? I remember where this started. Roman. The Usos. Me. Blood. Loyalty. Legacy. You threw all that away." Solo snatched a mic from the timekeeper, eyes burning with fury. "I didn't throw it away," he snarled. "I took it back." Roman got weak. Jimmy ran. Jey cried. I stood when no one else would. This is mine now because no one else had the guts to claim it. The crowd booed, but Solo didn't care. Jacob stepped closer. You call that guts? You turned your back on your own blood. That ain't strength. That's fear. Solo smirked. I ain't afraid of you. You should be. And with that, the ring exploded. Jacob and Solo launched into a furious brawl, so much for no physicality. Security stormed the ring, trying to separate the two giants. Fists flew, chairs clattered, referees got knocked aside. The show went off the air in chaos, with one final image, Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa, yelling, bleeding, but unbroken. The following week, WWE made it official, Jacob Fatu vs Solo Sikoa, WrestleMania 41, no disqualification match. But that was only the beginning. Backstage the same night, Jey Uso confronted Jimmy, the first on-screen interaction between the brothers in nearly a month. The room was quiet, the tension razor-sharp. You saw what happened, Jey said, looking into his brother's eyes. We can't keep standing on the sidelines. You saw what Jacob did. Jimmy nodded but didn't speak. I know you're hurt, Jey continued. I know you're pissed. But this ain't about Roman anymore. This is about us. The bloodline. If we don't do something, it's gone forever. Jimmy looked away, fists clenched, lips tight. Then finally, he spoke. You in? Jey nodded. Jimmy's voice dropped to a whisper. Then I'm in too. The Usos were back. Not for Roman. Not for Solo. For Jacob. And now, the war was real. WrestleMania 41 weekend, Night 1, Bloodline Civil War begins. Jacob Fatu, backed by the Usos, would face Solo Sikoa and his hand-picked enforcers in a six-man war unlike anything WWE has seen in years. No titles. No stipulations. Just destruction. Meanwhile, rumblings backstage hinted at a larger shadow preparing to fall. Roman Reigns. Unconfirmed reports swirled that he had been spotted in Las Vegas just days before WrestleMania. Paul Heyman remained silent, avoiding cameras, refusing interviews. His loyalty? Unknown. His fear? Palpable. Commentators and superstars alike began asking the question everyone was thinking: if Roman Reigns returns, whose side will he choose? WrestleMania was no longer just the grandest stage. It was the battlefield of a bloodline at war with itself. And the story had only just begun. The Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas was electric. As the pyrotechnics boomed and the announcers set the stage for the weekend's chaos, fans around the world held their breath. The match was being billed simply, Bloodline versus Bloodline, but this was no simple grudge match. This was a civil war. A collision of philosophies. The implosion of the most dominant faction in modern wrestling history. The entrances were nothing short of cinematic. Solo Sikoa emerged first, surrounded by his two mysterious enforcers, named later as Manu Toko and Zion Koa, both former NXT monsters now fully under Solo's command. They walked in unison, a wall of brutality and intimidation. Solo wore a bone-white Samoan battle vest, his eyes dark and unreadable, as if possessed by the spirit of war itself. Then came Jacob Fatu. No pyro. No spectacle. Just fire. He walked alone at first. Hoodie off, eyes locked forward, tribal tattoos on full display. Behind him, after a long pause, came Jimmy and Jey Uso, stepping out together for the first time in nearly 6 months. The crowd roared like a wave crashing down on the ring. The Usos looked more focused than ever, not as Roman's former soldiers, but as brothers fighting to reclaim their family's honor. The bell rang, and all hell broke loose. This was not a technical showcase. It was a street war in a ring. No tags, no order, just chaos. Jacob and Solo went at it like twin hurricanes. Every punch echoed like a drumbeat. The enforcers and Usos tore into each other on the outside, Jimmy and Jey leaping off barricades, slamming bodies into steel posts, diving through ropes. Within 5 minutes, the ring mats were stained with sweat and blood. Jacob hit a pop-up Samoan drop on Solo that nearly cracked the ring. Solo responded with a savage runnage onto a steel chair. The crowd was on their feet the entire time. Every move felt like it carried decades of legacy behind it. But it wasn't just violence. It was emotion. There were moments when Solo hesitated, when he saw Jimmy or Jey coming and paused, memories flickering behind his eyes. And there were moments when Jacob screamed at Solo, not out of hatred but desperation. "You don't have to do this," he roared after leveling one of the enforcers with a super kick. "We can fix this." Solo's response? A thunderous spear that folded Jacob in half. By the 18-minute mark, only Jacob and Solo were left standing. The Usos and enforcers had brawled their way into the crowd, chaos erupting in every corner of the arena. Referees tried to regain control, but this was beyond rules now. Jacob and Solo circled each other, bloody and gasping. The crowd chanted, "This is family." Jacob lunged, only for Solo to sidestep and slam him with a Samoan spike. He went for the cover. Jacob kicked out. Solo screamed in frustration, pounding the mat. He dragged Jacob to his feet, looking to finish it. And then, the lights dimmed. Not black, but gold. "The tribal chief is here," screamed Michael Cole. The crowd exploded. Roman Reigns walked out, slowly, in a long black coat lined with red and gold tribal stitching. No music. No Paul Heyman. Just presence. He paused at the top of the ramp as everyone in the ring froze. Jacob stared up from his knees, eyes wide. Solo didn't move. Roman stepped down the ramp slowly. The match stopped. Everyone watched. Roman entered the ring. He stood between Solo and Jacob. No mic. No theatrics. Just a stare. Then, in one of the most haunting moments in WrestleMania history, Roman turned to Solo. And shook his head. A slow, solemn no. Solo's expression twisted in fury. He shoved Roman. The crowd gasped. Roman stepped back. Then looked down. And Superman punched Solo Sikoa in the jaw. The stadium came unglued. Solo dropped like a stone. Jacob, barely able to stand, crawled to cover him. Jacob Fatu, Jey Uso, and Jey Uso win. The war, at least for now, was over. Roman knelt beside Jacob, whispering something in his ear that cameras didn't catch. Then he stood and looked out at the crowd. Not as a king returning to power. Not as a tribal chief demanding loyalty. But as a man who remembered what the bloodline used to be. He extended a hand to Jey. Then to Jimmy. And then, to Jacob. The three men stared at each other. Then, slowly. Together, they raised their arms. The crowd erupted. WrestleMania 41. Night 1. Ended not with blood, but with unity. Or so it seemed. Because later that night, as Roman walked backstage alone, he was approached by Paul Heyman, nervous, shaking, as always. Roman said nothing. Heyman extended a phone. Roman looked at the screen. His face changed. He nodded once. Then walked away. Back toward the shadows. Because the war may be over, but the throne? The throne is still up for grabs. The morning after WrestleMania 41 felt different. The dust had settled, the roar of 85,000 fans still echoed in headlines and locker rooms across the industry, but the air inside WWE was heavy. Something had shifted. The image of Roman Reigns standing beside Jacob Fatu, Jimmy, and Jey Uso in the ring was still replaying across social media. Thousands were calling it redemption. Others were calling it a power play. But what everyone could agree on, the bloodline was reborn. Or so it seemed. Monday Night Raw opened with a chilling recap of the WrestleMania Civil War, Solo Sikoa laid out by Roman Reigns. Jacob Fatu victorious. The Usos finally reunited. It was the closure fans didn't know they needed. But WWE didn't wait long to peel that closure apart. The first surprise came in the opening segment. Paul Heyman emerged, not with Roman, not with Solo, but with a new entourage, Zion Koa and Manu Toko, the same enforcers Solo had introduced. But now, they stood on either side of Heyman, no longer aligned with Solo. Paul entered the ring, smiling nervously, clutching the microphone like it was the only thing anchoring him to earth. He began slowly, deliberately. "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman, and I serve only one master. Not a tribal chief. Not a revolutionary. A ruler." The crowd booed. Heyman raised a hand. "You all saw what happened at WrestleMania. You saw the betrayal. The misguided attempt at a reunion. But I'm here to tell you that what you witnessed was a decoy. A mirage. A staged illusion to blind you from the truth." Gasps from the crowd. Heyman's tone turned venomous. Roman Reigns didn't return to reunite the family. He returned to take control of what he never lost. Before the audience could react, Roman's music hit. But this time, he didn't come through the crowd or the stage. He descended from the rafters, a towering silhouette, dressed in black and gold armor, symbolic and unmistakably intimidating. The crowd didn't cheer. They were stunned. In the ring, Roman took the mic, stared into the camera, and uttered one sentence that would send shockwaves across the wrestling world. "The bloodline you saw at WrestleMania was a funeral for weakness." He looked around, pausing as chants of Jacob Fatu filled the arena. Jacob. Jimmy. Jey, they had their moment. But now, we move forward. And that means we cut the dead weight. Suddenly, on the Jumbotron, footage played. Security camera angles from backstage at WrestleMania. Shots of Roman speaking to Heyman. Secret footage of him instructing Manu Toko and Koa to fall in line after the match. It wasn't an alliance of redemption, it was a long game. The crowd began to boo louder as Roman laid it bare. "I didn't save Jacob. I baited him. I didn't end the war, I started a new one." Backstage that night, Jacob Fatu erupted. Flanked by the Usos, he tore through catering, demanding Roman's location. But Roman had already left, surrounded by Heyman and his new warriors. He had made his move, and it was checkmate. The next few weeks on Raw and SmackDown were a chessboard. Jacob and the Usos began calling themselves the real ones. A subtle but powerful shot at Roman's narrative. They cut promos not with rage, but with heartbreak. Jacob spoke about the betrayal not just of Roman's punch at WrestleMania, but of trust. Of inviting his cousin back into the ring thinking it was to heal, and instead being used as a pawn. "I believed in you," Jacob told the camera one night. "And that was my mistake." Meanwhile, Solo Sikoa, missing since WrestleMania, finally returned, not as Roman's enforcer, but as a lone wolf. Broken, betrayed by Heyman, abandoned by his enforcers, and left out of Roman's grand plan. His promo was chilling. "They all used me. Paul. Roman. Even my own brothers. But I'm done playing their game. I build my own kingdom now. 3 sides. 1 war." Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman, now leading a new bloodline, forged in deception and power. Jacob Fatu and the Usos, fighting for legacy, honor, and the original vision of what the bloodline was supposed to be. Solo Sikoa, a silent storm forming on the outside, a wild card with nothing to lose. By the time WWE Backlash was announced, the main event was already booked in stone, Roman Reigns vs Jacob Fatu, first blood match. But with a twist, if Jacob wins, Roman must disband the new bloodline. If Roman wins, Jacob must leave WWE. The stakes had never been higher. The lead-up to Backlash was suffocating with intensity. Vignettes played showing Roman training alone in the desert, whipping himself back into godlike condition. Jacob was shown in the heart of Samoa, training in silence with tribal elders, embracing the roots of his lineage. This was no longer a wrestling rivalry. This was a spiritual war. The Usos, now more united than ever, vowed to keep Roman's new soldiers away from ringside. Jimmy, in one particularly emotional moment, broke down on SmackDown and said, "We were family, man. We built this from nothing. And you threw it all away for what? Power? Gold? Nah. You don't deserve the table anymore." The crowd thundered with chants of "Jacob! Jacob! Jacob!" And then came the final blow. On the SmackDown before Backlash, Roman Reigns took to the ring one last time. He held the mic like a knife. "Enjoy your moment, Jacob. Because after Backlash, there will be no more chants. There will be no more legends. Just me. And my empire. Forever." But Jacob had one final response. "I don't want your empire," he said, standing on the Titantron screen above the crowd. "I want our family back. But if I have to burn your empire down to get it, then so be it." San Juan, Puerto Rico. The stage was set for a reckoning. The skies above were stormy, the air thick with anticipation as thousands poured into the Coliseo de Puerto Rico. The energy wasn't festive. It was heavy. The type of tension that came when history was about to be rewritten. The Bloodline Civil War, which had begun in whispers and stare-downs, was now heading toward a final, violent crescendo. The match wasn't just promoted, it was warned about. WWE programming had shifted its tone in the weeks leading up to Backlash 2025. Gone were the glamorous video packages and epic orchestral themes. In their place, solemn narrators, tribal drums, and archival footage from the original Anoa'i lineage. This wasn't just storytelling. It was mythology being ripped apart in real time. Main event, Roman Reigns vs. Jacob Fatu, first blood match. There were no disqualifications. No countouts. No outside interference. Just two men in a ring, and only one would walk out with his dignity intact. The other, exiled forever. If Jacob Fatu won, the new Bloodline faction would be forced to disband. If Roman Reigns won, Jacob would be gone from WWE. Entirely. No rematches. No returns. The match began with ceremonial gravity. Tribal dancers flanked the stage. Polynesian war drums echoed through the arena as Jacob Fatu entered, not as a man, but as a legacy made flesh. His body was marked with fresh paint, red and black, the colors of family, blood, and war. He carried no pyro, no flash. Just purpose. Then came Roman. The lights cut out completely. A single spotlight revealed him on a rising platform, arms out, his chest bare, his own body painted with golden tribal markings. Around his waist was a custom title. Not the WWE Championship, but something new, a belt forged in gold and obsidian, with the words "Bloodline Forever" etched across the center. The bell rang. They didn't run. They didn't even circle. They just stared. Minutes passed, the crowd holding its breath. And then, with no warning, Roman lunged, fists flying, primal and feral. Jacob responded in kind. It wasn't wrestling. It was combat. Steel chairs were used like swords. Ring steps became shields. Bloodline signs and custom belts from ringside were ripped from fans' hands and used as weapons. Jacob hit a Samoan spike of his own, mocking Solo's finishing move, and followed it with a running senton that nearly crushed Roman through the announce table. Roman countered with a spear off the steel ramp, launching both men into the barricade. Fans screamed, not in delight, but disbelief. 15 minutes in, no blood. Both men battered, bruised, but not broken. That's when Roman went dark. He reached under the ring and pulled out something unseen for years, a leather war belt, once used by his grandfather, Afa. The crowd gasped. Commentary fell silent. Roman raised the belt high, and whipped Jacob across the back. 1, 2, 3 times. Welts formed. Jacob writhed. Still, no blood. Roman shouted, "You wanted the old ways? Here they are, and cracked the strap again. Then came the moment. Jacob, nearly broken, rolled outside the ring and staggered to the barricade where the Usos stood, fists clenched. Jey screamed, "Get up, USO! Fight for all of us!" Jacob looked up. His eyes were red. But not from pain. From rage. He turned, grabbed a kendo stick, and broke it across Roman's jaw. Then, he picked up the leather belt. And used it on Roman. Strike after strike after strike. Not with fury, but with precision. This wasn't vengeance, it was justice. And then, it happened. A cut opened across Roman's eyebrow. Just a sliver. Barely noticeable at first. But blood trickled. The referee saw it. The crowd went silent. Then exploded. The bell rang. Winner, Jacob Fatu. Result, Roman Reigns and the new Bloodline must disband. Jacob collapsed, hands shaking, eyes wide with disbelief. He had done it. He had beat the unbeatable. He had bled the tribal god. The Usos ran in and lifted him to his feet. Confetti didn't fall. Fireworks didn't go off. The screen simply cut to black and white. A tribute to a war fought in honor, not spectacle. Roman lay in the ring, motionless. Blood down his cheek. His empire, the one he rebuilt with cruelty and manipulation, was now rubble. And yet, as Jacob stood tall, arms raised, the camera caught Roman smirking. Just slightly. As if he knew something they didn't. Backstage, Paul Heyman was nowhere to be found. Neither were Manu Toko or Zion Koa. WWE posted a cryptic message to their social channels shortly after, "The kingdom has fallen, but the king hasn't left." Fans exploded with theories. Was Roman planning something even deeper? Was this the final end, or simply a transformation? Meanwhile, Jacob Fatu, Jimmy, and Jey stood on the Raw stage the following night, holding a new emblem between them, a family crest with one word beneath, reclaimed. Jacob took the mic and addressed the crowd. "We didn't just win a match. We took back what was ours. Our name. Our legacy. The Bloodline isn't about one man. It's about family. And from now on, we stand united. We stand real. We are the real ones." But backstage, a different story brewed. Solo Sikoa, still operating in the shadows, was seen watching the celebration on a monitor. Alone. Silent. Then, in a chilling post-credits scene posted to WWE's digital platform, Solo was shown entering a dark room lit only by torches. Inside stood Paul Heyman. And someone else. A figure in black. Hooded. Unseen. Heyman spoke a single line, "Phase 2 begins now." Cut to black. 1 week removed from the brutality of Backlash 2025, the WWE Universe was still reeling. Jacob Fatu had achieved the impossible. Roman Reigns was defeated in a first blood match, and with that loss, the new Bloodline was ordered to disband. But just as fans and wrestlers alike began to exhale, to believe that peace might finally return, shadows began to stir once again. And the real game, it seemed, had only just begun. The show opened not with cheers, but with uncertainty. A recap package of the Backlash main event played in near silence, haunting and reverent. A voiceover, a new narrator, unfamiliar, spoke softly over images of Roman Reigns bleeding in the ring, the Usos weeping, Jacob Fatu victorious. When gods fall, they don't die, they evolve. And with that, the lights cut out. The arena was plunged into darkness. A single spotlight hit the stage. There stood Paul Heyman, looking haggard, thinner, worn by weeks of war. He didn't say "ladies and gentlemen." He didn't smile. Instead, he whispered, "I told you the story wasn't over." And then came the words that changed everything. "Allow me to reintroduce the true heir to the Bloodline." From behind the curtain, flanked by smoke and bathed in crimson light, emerged Solo Sikoa. But he wasn't the same. He wore a dark ceremonial robe. No longer in street gear, no longer dressed like an enforcer. He had shaved his head fully, tribal markings now carved across his shoulders and face in black ink. His expression was cold. Empty. Hardened. Heyman stood behind him and proclaimed, "The future no longer lies in legacies. It lies in destruction. The bloodline isn't dead, it's been reborn. Welcome to the Revenant era." The crowd was stunned. Then, two more figures appeared. Not Manu Toko. Not Zion Koa. These were new. Sefa Fatu, Solo's younger brother, and Zilla Fatu, the son of the late Umaga. Both had spent the past year in developmental, quietly sharpening their skills. Now, they stood behind Solo, their faces painted in war streaks, eyes devoid of empathy. Paul Heyman continued. "You thought Roman was the end of the story? No. Roman was just a symptom. This is the cure. No more sentiment. No more loyalty. Just fear. The Revenant bloodline doesn't want to rule WWE," he stepped forward, voice rising. "We want to purge it." Backstage, the cameras cut to Jacob Fatu and the Usos watching on a monitor, stone-faced. They didn't speak. They didn't react. They simply turned and walked out of frame. Because they knew. This wasn't a new chapter. It was war all over again. Days later on SmackDown, Jacob Fatu and the Usos arrived unannounced, demanding answers. They weren't here to cut promos. They were here for blood. But as they stormed through the backstage corridors, WWE officials scrambled. Paul Heyman and Solo Sikoa weren't in the building. Or so it seemed. Midway through the show, chaos erupted. The real ones were scheduled to face Imperium in a main event trios match. The bout started normal, stiff, brutal, a showcase of top-tier tag chemistry. But 10 minutes in, the lights flickered. Then went out entirely. When they came back up, Imperium was gone. In their place? Solo, Sefa, and Zilla. Standing on the apron. No entrance music. No warning. The brawl that followed wasn't scripted. It was a mugging. Steel pipes. Tables. Thumbtacks. Jacob Fatu was driven through the announce desk with a double Samoan drop. Jey was choked out using his own wrist tape. Jimmy was powerbombed into the steel steps. The Revenant bloodline didn't speak. They didn't pose. They just left, silently, walking back through the crowd. And in that silence, WWE fans realized, this wasn't the same bloodline. This one didn't care about respect, or gold, or even control. It wanted total collapse. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns had gone dark. No sightings. No statements. His social media accounts had been scrubbed of anything bloodline related. Even Heyman refused to speak his name. Some said Roman was ashamed. Others said he was planning something far worse. In an exclusive interview released on The Bump, Jey Uso tried to explain what he believed had happened. He's not dead. He's not done. He's just watching, waiting. And when he comes back, 'cause we all know he will, he won't be coming for Solo or Paul or even me. He'll be coming for the soul of this place. And I don't know if we'll survive that. The first official match between the two factions was booked for Clash at the Castle in Cardiff. WWE leaned into the gravity of it all. The promotion's taglines shifted from standard showmanship to biblical scale. This summer, the earth shakes again. Jacob, Jey, and Jimmy trained in isolation, retreating to a private facility in American Samoa. Video packages showed them wrestling in jungle rings, running barefoot across volcanic rock, preparing for a kind of war that WWE hadn't seen in decades. Meanwhile, Solo's faction released cryptic videos of their own. Grainy, black and white footage of back-alley fights, brutal training sessions, and Samoan rituals drenched in blood and smoke. These weren't just wrestlers, they were zealots. Jacob speared Fatu clean through the barricade 5 minutes in. Jey and Sefa bled before the halfway mark, neither tagged out once. Jimmy was handcuffed and beaten with a kendo stick for nearly 3 minutes straight. Solo Sikoa bit through his own lip after being hit with a steel chair, and smiled. The match ended in a no contest after the ring collapsed from a triple powerbomb spot. As EMTs rushed to ringside, the fans didn't chant WrestleMania. They chanted, "This is war." Where Roman Reigns is rumored to make his return. Not to end the war, but to choose which side of the fire he stands on.